Hello, my lovelies. It's me, author Alexandrian Fonte, coming to you with a new video. So, now this one is about my paranormal journey. So, in the rest of the videos, I told you that I was primarily a paranormal author. And to my credit, I am on my 55th paranormal. That encompasses the 12 series that I do, and then the Christmas paranormal, and then the erotic paranormal. So, um, basically, I write those under Alexandrian Fonte. Um, this would be the series for Teaching Between Midnight and Dawn. I'm one of those weird authors. I don't have any of my physical copies of books. I've started ordering them, which is insane. Like for 10 years, I've been an author, but I've never, like, literally, I think I ordered, well, the issue is I order the books and then I give them away. I was doing this one Subway series like 2 almost 3 years ago now, where I would just drop books on the subway. Like it would be like I was reading the book and then I would just leave it on the subway bench so someone could pick it up and have a free book and read it. I actually picked up some readers like that, which was crazy cool because I had a reader email me from the information in the back of the book and say, "Hey, I found your book on the subway." And I was like, "Yeah, I left it there on purpose." And then enjoy it. And they were just like, "Oh my God, that's so crazy." But anyway, so this is this series that began with. Yes, that is my face. I didn't do it because like I think I'm some beauty queen or I'm just gorgeous and I should be on the book of the cover of a book. No, I did it because it's very hard to find minority females that aren't being used already. So because of the fact that just like in most things, we don't get the publicity, or we're oftentimes not seen as beautiful or what America wants, that there aren't a lot of minority models. So what happens is the genre tends to be populated with the same female on like 12 different covers. And so I didn't want that. So when my cover artist was doing these, revamping the covers, because some of the covers, if you look on like Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, iBooks, any of that, you'll see a different cover than this. We're at this moment revamping the covers. And so he couldn't, my cover artist, we couldn't find like a freaking cover model that had not been used already. And so I thought it was cute. He was like, "Well, Ale, you're like an attractive woman." He's like, "Do you have a photo of you when you were younger, when you were the age of the character?" And I was like, "Huh?" It was like, "Yeah, do you have a photo of you at the same age of the character in the book?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then he was like, "Okay, send it to me." And I sent it, and this is what he sent me back, which I thought was actually pretty cool. So this is the Teaching Between Midnight and Dawn series. So now how this series works is it began um, Ariana was the first series that I actually wrote, and that book came out in 2011. That was the book that I originally got published for. And so it spans 15 books so far. I had stopped writing them when I got to book 13 because the series wasn't picking up any traction, and then I was just like, I get that. I get low like that sometimes, and I'm like, what's the point of continuing to write it? Even though I like it, it's like, am I writing for myself? And so I had to like do, like one of those soul searching things to see if I would still write the series. So now the series is a reverse harem. But here's the thing, the reverse harem doesn't start till book 9. The series predicates off of a Egyptian myth. Ariana, the main character, is the descendant of Ast, which in Western culture is Isis. And so she doesn't know this. She has no clue that because she's adopted and she's culturally Puerto Rican, because the couple who adopted her, I mean, you'll get all this in the book, in the series. The couple who adopted her, Harold and Janae, they're Puerto Rican and they were missionaries. And so they adopted her, so they raised her, and so she's culturally Puerto Rican, but she's actually half African, half South African. Um, which basically means she's half black, half white. Um, and so she has no clue that she is the descendant. And then Aaron, the main character, the main male character, is a 475 4-year-old werewolf. He was banished from his clan for insurrection and murder. He killed someone. And so he becomes an Urshan monk and doing basically to do penance for what he did. And so during this time period, he finds this legend, and he got banished again from the monastery because he wasn't supposed to be there. He was supposed to be nosing up in this stuff that had nothing to do with him. And so he once again gets banished. Now, a century later, he happens upon this priest, and they're talking about this legend. And the council, which is the governing body for all of these books, they govern supernaturals, paranormals, all of that. They don't want this legend told, because if this legend is told and this person actually exists, then it can bring down the council and basically wipe them out. And so they don't want this person found. Well, this priest finds this legend. He gives the Aaron the charge that he needs to find this descendant because they are sick of the council. They've been ruling for 30 centuries, and basically one of the priests, his best friend, was killed because the council was like, no, you were into some stuff that you were supposed to be in, blah 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 blah. So they put him to death. So the priest has his own little whatever for the reasonings that he's doing this, and so he charges him to find this descendant, because if they can find this descendant, then they can wipe them out. And so Ariana is this descendant, but she just doesn't know it. And so the books so far are up to book 15, and you have vampires, werewolves, angels, demons, shapeshifters, vampires, angels, Nephilim, witches, warlocks, everything that you can think of in the paranormal world is in this series, because of the fact that it spanned 15 books. Now each book in the series introduces you to a new character. So Ariana is always there because this entire series is about Ariana, but the prophecy and the legacy of Ariana includes 10 supercharged women. So basically, that's the only way they're going to be able to take out the council, is these 10 supercharged women. So in each book, you get a new female character, you get a new male character, but Ariana is still there because she runs this. This is a female run series. Men are in it, but at the behest of the women. And so this character is female driven, female led, basically. So you get a new female character and a new male character that comes in. So the good thing is like when you read the first book, you meet Aaron, Ariana, Sephiroth, Magnus, Six, Leichlin, because Leichlin is Aaron's best friend, the Ulfric Packmaster, who had to banish him because of what the council made him do. But they've remained friends. But Arn doesn't really contact Leichlin because he doesn't want to get in trouble. Now Sephiroth is you don't find this out till one of the other books, but he's technically a regent. But through all these books up until book 5, they think he's a master, but he's actually a regent because I'll let you find that out in the book. But anyway, so the only other person that Arn has stayed in contact with for the last 200 years is Sephiroth, because Sephiroth, he don't get, like, he's my version, he's my white prince. And when I say white prince, I mean he's the British version of Prince, the sign time Prince. So I find this character hysterically funny. If I had to say my male characters out of the books that I write, I love Sephiroth. He's the funniest and the like most amazing character to me that I came up with. That's my own little whatever. And so that's the only person that he's kept in contact with for the last 250 years because like I said, Sephiroth doesn't care what the council, he doesn't blah blah blah. So that's how that series begins. And so each book you get a different female and male character, but you've already met them in the previous book. So like in book 1, you met all of those, and then book 2, because book 1 you met 6, 6 is the main character for book 2, and Joby. And then in book 2 you meet Magnus, you meet a bunch of other people, and then you switch to book 3 and Magnus is the main character for book 3. Book 4 you meet all these other characters, you get an inference to Irnan. Irnan is Leichling's brother, so you get an inference to Irnan. So book 4 has to do with Irnan. Book 4 you have this big huge 3-day, I'm not sure if I can say this on here, but it's like a 6-day orgy, and it's called the Blood Moon and the Wolf Dance. And so in book 4, you get to meet all these new characters, and you meet Rue. Rue is one of the American vampires. And so in book 4 you meet Rue, but just like for a little bit because the book is not about him. So book 5 is Rue. So that's how the books go. You get to meet those characters before you actually read that book. So that's how that series goes. And then by the time you get to book 9, because of a prophecy and something that happened, I didn't just throw in reverse harem. I knew at some point that it would become that because of this prophecy and the stuff that Sekhmet does throughout the book. Sekhmet, I loved writing her too. I find her hysterically funny, just myself. So you get the Egyptian underworld, you get the Egyptian characters interacting like Thoth, Osiris, because the books revolve around Osiris as well. Osiris in my world is a dick. So he's the daddy of everyone. So he acts like the daddy. Arn actually receives well, no, I'll let you read that. I won't tell you that. Anyway, Osiris, Isis, Thoth, Sekhmet, Ra, Anubis, they're all in this series, throughout this series, because they pretty much govern it because of the fact that it's based off of Egyptian mythology. Now, even though it's Egyptian mythology, you have legends from all over the world. Like you have the Japanese sun goddess, you have Princess Ayako, you have Merlin, you have Thor, you have all of these characters, Constantine, all of these people are in this series. So it's chock full. There's a whole bunch of stuff. I loved writing it because of the fact that because it's based off these myths and these characters, I always have new stuff to throw in there because it's never ending. And so that's why it's up to book 15. Book 16 is slated to come out. I was gonna stop with book 16, and then I was on this Facebook post and people were like, "Why would you stop at 16? If the book is interesting, the characters are interesting, why stop if you can continue to keep the reader?" So I'm hoping, So I put that behind me. I'm not going to stop now. And so that's the first series, Ariana's Legend. It spans this one. It spans 15 books so far. And so if you're interested, check that out. It's on Barnes and Nobles, um, Amazon, and then in the next month or two, it'll be on in the next month. This is why I was saying I don't have the time for the other books right now. The next month, all of these books will be on iBooks. And then I'm actually looking into doing I've already bought the equipment and I'm trying to find actors now to do these in audiobooks as well. So now the next series that I write is Midness Fairy Tale. I don't have these in print either, but I will because I will be giving some of them away. But this is Midness Fairy Tale. And Midness Fairy Tale revolves around Midna. Midna is a college professor. So all of these books in my world, in my paranormal world, they all have to do with teachers, professors, curators, the academic field. So I didn't want to take like the normal, PI or vampire hunter, vampire killer, witch killer, something like that. I didn't want that because that's prevalent in our genre. So I just said, what if I take a bunch of teachers, like everyday teacher? Because Ariana is a seventh grade teacher, seventh grade history teacher. Every person in that series, every female character is in academic some way, somehow. And so I just said, well, would it be funny to take all these teachers and curators and all of this stuff and throw them into the mix with things that go bump in the night? And they would literally, at the beginning of these books, would really only have, they're not their academic knowledge to help them through it, but it comes in handy because of the fact that they are, because like in the Teacher Between Midnight and Dawn series, one in book 6, when Merlin shows up, you got all this knowledge. So um in this series, Minda's Fairy Tale, this is a Fae series. So you're dealing with light Fae, dark Fae, Sheely and Unsheely. And basically, Midna meets Prince Callan. Prince Callan doesn't want to be king. His destiny is to rule the Rowan light courts, but he doesn't want to. He's had an issue with his twin brother. He has a twin brother, Kellen, and for centuries now they've literally tried to kill each other, and it has to do with issue that happened between them like 2 centuries ago. And for 2 centuries, Kellen has tried to kill Callan, and finally Callan gets tired of it and he wants to go to the human world. And his father's like, the Prince Roy is like, I don't really know, but he's like, just give me 4 years, let me go to university, blah blah blah, let me live the 4 years in the human world, and then I'll come back and I'll rule if that's what you want me to do, even though I don't want to. And so his King Roy actually allows him to do this, and in the human world he meets Midna. Minna is basically almost mugged, but she has a friend. Her friend has a dojo, and so for the last 4 years, he's pretty much made her take his classes so she could protect herself. And so she's coming home one night, and she's almost mugged, and she like pretty much whips his butt. And then San Fernando PD rolls up, and it's the detective, or Crinoline is Callan, and it's his human version, or his allure. That's what it's called. And like Fae have glamour, I decided to call it allure. So his allure makes him look one way, but that's not how he really looks. And so after he meets Midna, he asks her out on a date, and she's like, nope, I don't date police officers. And so basically, he gives her a ride home, does all this stuff, and then finally he's like, come on, give a guy a break. And so she's like, fine, call me, blah, 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 blah. Well, later that night, she has this crazy dream. And guess who's in the dream? And that's pretty much how this series starts. And so this series, Midnight's Fairy Tale, the series is actually called A Light Fairy Tale, and Midnight's Fairy Tale is the first book. And so this series spans 7 books so far, and it crosses over with Teaching Between Midnight and Dawn, because book 6 in the Teacher Between Midnight and Dawn, and book 3 in the A Light Fairy Tale crossover, because you find out that Kalanit, which is the main character for book 6, is actually Midna's cousin. So that's how those books cross over. And so basically the whole gist of this is Callan doesn't want to be king. Kellen can't be king because after the issue with Kellen and Callan having that, whatever made their caused them, because I don't want to tell you, I want you to read it. What caused the rift between them? Kellen decided to declare himself Unseelie. Now, Unseelie is dark. in this world. In my world, it's the dark courts, and so Kellen becomes Dark Fae. And so he can't, even though it's his destiny, it was his destiny to rule the courts with his brother as the Twin Kings, which basically is book 8 for this series, which comes out next year. He can't, because he declared himself dark. And since he declared himself Unshili, Callan has to rule. There's no way Callan can't not rule, but he doesn't want to. So this is the issue. And then once he brings Midna into this world, Midna is actually a professor, but she's a witch. But she doesn't know she's a witch either. She knows that she has a witch background because of her aunt, her grandmother, but her mom never allowed her mom is like very, very religious. So her mom never allowed that in her house, and she never allowed her grandmother to tell her these things because she thought it was demonic. And so Minda grew up. She used to hang with her grandma like all the time because that was her big mom. And she used to hang with her all the time. Oh, by the way, Minda is half Jewish, half black. And so she used to hang with her grandmother all the time in New Orleans. But by the time she turned 15, her mom she wouldn't allow it anymore. So anything after that that the grandmother could have taught her, she couldn't because she wasn't allowed to. So this, just like a little disclaimer here, this video is going to be pretty long. I'm not sure if anybody will watch it, but it's pretty much giving you the information to my series and the 12 paranormal series that I write. And so basically she's a witch, and then she becomes like the beat, you know, HBIC. So in this series, and then basically the whole point of it is to get Callan to rule. So that's series 2. Series 3 is Bayou Blues. And Bayou Blues is about Izzy. And Izzy is an older woman. I wanted to write a paranormal where there was a character in the older realm, somewhere around my age. And so in this series, Izzy is the older woman. She has history with Luke, but she doesn't know it. Because her mother is from Louisiana, but some big huge issue happened, and then the mom moved to California, and she never went. Her and her sister, her twin sister, they moved. One moved to California, one moved to Florida, and they never went back. The only time that they went back was when when the mom and the sister's parents passed away. So that's the only time Izzy has ever been to New Orleans. So she decides that Izzy is a chef, and she decides that she wants to chuck California and move to Louisiana. So she picks up everything and she moves down there to run a restaurant for Gunther. And Gunther doesn't care about this restaurant. He tried to like induct a New York menu in Louisiana, and so all this stuff just doesn't work. So Izzy goes down to take over this restaurant and to basically put it back on the map. And in like hanging out with some faraway neighbors, they invite her out for drinks, and she's like, what the heck, I'm new here, I don't really know anyone. And so she goes, and then she meets, well, she doesn't actually meet him, but she sees him. This guy walks in with this big huge overcoat, and it's like 80 degrees outside, and she's like, what the hell? And then he takes the seat and he throws off the hood, and she's like, pretty much like, oh my God. And so the friends, one of the new friends who is basically having drinks with her, she goes, oh, don't mind him, that's just Luke, he bet crazy, basically. She's like, what? And so they go to give her the entire explanation. And so Izzy goes home finally after drinks, and then she hears like something on her balcony, and like she picks up the bat, she goes toward the balcony, and she opens up the door, and it's this guy sitting on her balcony. And she's like, what the hell? And then he says, I would know you anywhere. And so she's like, what? He's like, yeah. And so basically I'm gonna stop there. And that's this series. So there's 3 books to this series so far. It also crosses over with Teaching Between Midnight and Dawn because Leichlin, the Ulfric from Teaching Between Midnight and Dawn, Remy is one of his guardsmen, and Remy is Luke's cousin. So that's series 3. Series 4 is the Salito Witch series. This is it. Now, the Salito Witch series revolves around witches. So, basically, Manuela, she finds this. She gets this message that says that she won a house in Puerto Rico. And so automatically she thinks it's like one of those, African pyramid scams or something. And so she like deletes it. It's like whatever. And then like the message keeps popping up. And then it says that the house has been left to her by her great great aunt Amelia. And so she's like, okay, this is really weird. And so finally she calls up her dad and she's like, do you have an aunt named Amelia? And he's like, like, yeah. And then she's like, okay, well, I keep getting this thing that says that she left me a house. And so dad starts laughing. He's like, what the hell? Why'd she leave you a house? He's like, I'm her grandson. And so, I mean, I'm her great, nephew. And so they kind of laugh about it. And so she realizes that it's actually true. This aunt did leave her a house. And so, oops, it's all going out of focus. And so what she does is she has to go to Puerto Rico to claim the house. So she flies to Puerto Rico, but on the flight, she sees this guy, like seriously really hot guy, and he sits next to her and she's like, oh hi, they don't really talk, and she like sticks in her earphones, and she falls asleep. And when she falls asleep, she goes into like this vision, and this dude is there. And then he starts showing her around the house, and he tells her that the house is his. That basically it has a blood tie to it, and the blood tie. I mean, it's through blood magic. And the aunt performed a blood magic ritual, and in that blood magic ritual, she is his mate. And so she's like, she's thinking like she's having this crazy dream. And so she wakes up and the guy is no longer sitting next to her. And some old lady is just like, and so basically that's how that series starts. And so Manny, she gets this house and then she meets Waverly. And now this crosses over with Teaching Between Midnight and Dawn as well, because Magnus, who is the resident 597-year-old warlock, Waverly Christensen is his best friend. And so you get to meet Waverly in book 3 of the Teaching Between Midnight and Dawn series, Teaching Can Be Murder, Arvantes and Brotherhood, basically because Waverly is Magnus's best friend when he got inducted into the order. And so you get to meet Waverly over there. And then this series revolves around Waverly, Bartholomew, and Ferris, which were Magnus's best friends when they were like late teens and 20s, and they were inducted into the order, which is a part of the council. So they became Arvantes and then later Brotherhood. So that's what this series revolves around, and it's all witches and warlocks. It mainly focuses on witches and warlocks. Like the only series that has everything in it that you could think of is Teaching Between Midnight and Dawn. Bayou Blues is strictly werewolves. The Salito Witches is strictly witches. Midness Fairy Tale is strictly fae. But because of the fact that you have crossovers between Teaching Between Midnight and Dawn and these series, then you get other characters that might be werewolves, vampires, that. But those series are strictly what they are. Okay, and then book series 6 is Bidden. Actually, series 5. I'm sorry. It's the Death Merchants series. And series 5 is about death merchants. Well, you get this series doesn't cross over with Teaching Between Midnight and Dawn, but it does cross over with the Paranormal Matrimony series. So Series 5 is about the death merchants, and the death merchants is a part of the council. When the council needs their ill deeds done, they call a merchant. And so if you are basically practicing black magic and you're not sanctioned by the council, the merchants come for you. If you have been deemed dangerous, the merchants come for you. When Ariana, at all the times that Ariana had, like, they tried to kill Ariana, death merchants. Not this brand though. Not this branch. It's in there's two branches of death merchants in my council. This is their allies. And so in this series, basically they have become merchants. And what merchants are, they are the firstborn sons of supernaturals. Those sons are given to the council. And what the council does is the council raises them. They raise them without love. They raise them without compassion. They raise them without any of the human elements that would cause you to have compassion for someone. And they raise them this way so they can continue to fight evil, and they won't hesitate or think twice about putting someone down. The problem is their fate. There is long ago, there was a warlock who they pissed off, and they did something wrong to him, and he cast a spell. And in that spell, he included every death merchant after him, that the one thing that would bring down the merchants is love. And so he cast a fated mate spell. And so each of these death merchants in this series has a fated mate. The problem is those mates are witches, and they're like, no, I don't care about no prophecy that says I'm mated to you. I have a life. I have things I want to do. I have things that basically have been what I map my life out to. So it's a fated mated series where the mate doesn't want them. So the point of this series pretty much is that they have to convince the mate to be their mate, because once they have made it with them, then there's the marriage. Well, because of the fact that this warlock cast this spell, he was pissed off. So the spell comes with a legacy curse, and the legacy curse is if the warlock, which is this series encompasses warlocks and angels. If the warlock can't fix that curse, then the mate dies. So, because there was a legacy curse with this fated mate curse, in order, if the mate survives the legacy curse, then they have to be married, because the power needs to be tied together. Because one person walking around with that much power, the council is not about to allow that. So if they're mated together, then it doesn't dissipate the power, but it equalizes it between the two of them, which is basically the reason for this fated mate. So the problem is these witches are like, no. So that's the whole point of series 5. Series 6 is the Paranormal Matrimony series. And the first series in that is Married to a Vampire. I don't know if you could see these titles. I'm so sorry. I should freaking have the books. Married to a Vampire. Now, this series does cross over with Teaching Between Midnight and Dawn, because in this series evolves around Mathis and Romana. Romana is one of the first female death merchants. So that's the tie and the connect to the Death Merchant series. The characters from Teaching Between Midnight and Dawn, they don't cross over. There's no existence in this world. But Mathis does cross over to Teach Between Midnight and Dawn, because Mathis is a 1,500-year-old vampire. So he's homies with Sephiroth. Basically they have the same sire, Stinos. Stinos is a Titan vampire. He is one of the first vampires. He basically, Sekhmet turned him after he fell from after he fell, and then she rescued him from Tartan. So he is Cois, the Titan, but he changed his when he became an undead, but he's not an undead like normal undead. He is like a Sanskrit vampire. So basically he still breathes, he still has blood, he still has a normal pallor. And so he is the first of Sekhmet's vampires. You will get the entire backstory of how Sekhmet created her vampires in the Teaching Between Midnight and Dawn series. And so basically both Sephiroth and Maphis were bitten by Stenos, and Stenos is Coas. So basically they have unique like gifts and traits that only pretty much have to do with those vampires. And because because Sephiroth bites Ariana at one point, she gets this gift too. So you guys have to check out these series. And so basically Maphis connects with the Teaching Between Midnight and Dawn series because he's Sephiroth's homie. And so this is his series. And Romana is the death merchant sent to kill him. But she winds up falling in love with him from all the stuff that he does because he's really, really naughty. And so basically this series revolves around Maphis and Romana and what's going on with the houses in England, which is the Teaching Between Midnight and Dawn series. Basically this series comes in at book 14 of the Teaching Between Midnight and Dawn series. So a bunch of Buki has already fallen. And what's happening in these other series is it's spilling out into the entire paranormal world. So this is a shared universe series. All of these series are part of the shared universe except for the Death Merchants. They don't connect with any of that. And then the last series for this round, this shared universe, the last series for that is Married to a Werewolf. And this is about Rowena. Rowena is the first female pack-led alpha werewolf. She is a Ulfric, which basically means packmaster. And she is a woman of color. And so in this universe, this is the first female-led pack, and they don't like that. And then on top of it, she's a woman of color, so that makes it even worse for some of the surrounding packs in this universe. And so she basically comes to her she can't take the throne until she's 30. And so she's 29, she's about to turn 30, and her father, which is kind of like chauvinistic, because her mom got killed in a drive-by. Basically they laced the bullets with nightshade, so it killed her. She couldn't shift out of it. And her mom began this pack because Moki, which is the king, like the werewolf king in the Teaching Between Midnight and Dawn series, he turned her like several centuries ago. She was a slave when he turned her. And his whole gist was, if you have this power, you'll never be a slave again. And so he turned her, and basically that's how the mom became a werewolf. And so she married a Catalonian packmaster, and he thought he was going to run her pack. Like, no. So the dad is kind of chauvinistic, and he's just like, you need to be married. And so he convinced the council that one of the stipulations for her taking Packmaster was the fact that she needed to have a husband. And so he has his own pick of who she should marry, his little goody, basically his like henchman who's going to pretty much basically do everything he wants to be done with this pack, because it's native and it's Spanish, native, and black. And so because of the fact that it's being done on the native is more prevalent. It's a female led pack. And it's been that way for centuries and generations. And so they want to change it. And so she's like, no. But the point is that the father feels if he can get her to marry his little henchman, then he can change it. Well, what happens is um Leichlin sends, I don't know if you can see that. Leichlin, which is the Ulfric from Teacher Between Midnight and Dawn, he sends uh Owen. Owen is part of Thane's pack, and he basically he's indebted to him because Thane's took his brother and sister. And so in order to basically get Owen to do what he wants him to do. Owen was a feudal Scottish, uh, his family were feudal Scottish lords back like in the 14th century. He got bitten, but he didn't know what bit him. Something just tried to kill him on the battlefield. And basically, his wounds were so bad that they literally thought he was going to die. And then 2 days later, he got up like nothing was wrong with him. And they were like, oh, so they thought he was like a demon or something like that. So they banished him and his mother from the clan. And so basically, they pretty much roamed all that time. And then they joined Thane's pack. And basically, he had a brother and sister. And so Thanes pretty much used his brothers and sisters' welfare to get him to do the things that he wanted him to do for the rest of these centuries. And so now Owen can't find his brother and sister. They like Thane sent him to Russia for like 3 years, and in that time period, he moved his brothers and sister, or at least that's what Owen thinks. And so Thanes has two sons, and he wants them to petition the Alpha's hand in marriage in America. So he sends them. But the problem is, Jagger and Ranger hate him, so they have no intention of returning. And so they petition Rowena. I mean, Rowena's pack, and Rowena accepts them. So now the problem is, what happens is Rowena doesn't want to marry any of these men. She's looking for her soul starter, which is basically the mate, which is basically her mate. At this time, no one knows that Owen is actually a supreme werewolf because he's 597, almost 600 years old. And so he doesn't even know that he's a supreme alpha. But then when he meets Rowena, they connect. He wants nothing to do with the Schlausma. He basically is like, I'm there just so because my Ulfric sent me here to protect his sons, but I don't want to do with this. But then he realizes that Rowena is his soul starter, but he disses her like in front of the entire pack. So pretty much the rest of the book is him. I mean, a bunch of other stuff happens that you have to read because it connects with the teacher between midnight and dawn and all the bookie that's going on over there. But Owen pretty much spends the rest of the book trying to get her to see that she's his mate. But he crushed her, and so she was like, oh. So, and that's a series 7. And so that's how those series run. They run off of a Scottish, Irish, because there's actually language in the books. There's a Scottish accent written. There's Spanglish, tons of Spanglish. There's African American colloquialisms. There's slang. There's British slang. There's just these entire series contain all of that, and then it's based off of myths as well. And that's my main 6 paranormal series. And then I have then I also do a Black Women White Men series, and it's called Pack Coalition. And the first book of that is Blood Moon over Seattle. And basically Kaseya meets this guy after 6 months of him coming into her bar. She's actually a surgical nurse, but she got so fed up and tired of it that she just wanted to veg for like a couple of years out of the industry. She keeps her license and stuff up to date, but she took a job as a bartender. And so she meets this guy that's been coming in for the last 6 months, but he never says anything to her. And then finally, this one night, he decides to have a conversation with her. Lo and behold, unbeknownst to her, he's a werewolf. And then the eighth series is Black Women, White Men as well, and it's called the Burgeoning Witch series. And basically Charlotte is a Charlie. She's just your basic everyday nerd, blurred, who basically does her job, blah 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 blah. This is male female. These are the beginning book for the Pack Coalition series. It is male, female, male, because they're elemental witches, and Caseta is like so powerful that one partner can't contain her. And it's based off the native version of shifters, skinwalkers, all of that. And then the next series, the Burgeoning Witch series, it is male, female, male as well, because Charlie has a mate bond with a vampire and a werewolf. And so that's their trimulative, which basically means three, which is what Ariana started out with in the original series, but Ariana's but it's because of a prophecy. It's like, it's not just random RH thrown in there for you to be like, oh my god, what the heck, this woman's out, basically like that. No, it's not like that. It's for a reason, which is why the books don't start off as RH. They come in because of a certain prophecy or something that happens to Ariana. And then the Burgeoning Witches is male, female, male, and it's because she also is an elemental witch. And so this series links with Pack Coalition. So Pack Coalition and the Burgeoning Witch series, they cross over because these are elemental witches, whereas the witches for the Salito Witch series, they're Javalgas witches, which is basically the ancient witch, Catalonian witch, who basically decimated everything. I think they actually showed a portion of that in True Bloods. They are Javalia witches, and then the Burgeoning Witch series and the Pack Coalition, they're elemental witches. So they're based off of an African proverb. So they're elementals. And then the next series is the Dragon Heart Score series. These are dragons, and basically Lachey is she takes a bartending job as well. Lachey is like one of those people who just, there's me in her, because I like to roam. I don't like to stay in one place for like long periods of time. I don't believe in like astrology in like the real sense, but even still, in that respect or that atmosphere, I'm a Sagittarius, so we we can be very flighty. We don't like to put roots down because we like to go do things, which is probably the reason why I write the way that I write. And so Lachey likes to just do her. And so she hooked up with this motorcycle gang that was like, she was like, he was be crazy, you know. And so she decided to take this bartending job. And then in this bartending job, there's a guy that she really likes, but she thinks like he has the hots for like the little blonde. But what she doesn't know is the little blonde has the hots for her. So anyway, and so she pretty much is like, nothing will ever come of it. And then she finds out that Grant actually likes her too. And Grant is half fae, half dragon. And so that's how you get the Heart Scorch Dragon series. And then Lachey knows that there's something in her because she's from New Orleans, so she thinks like she's a witch. all this time because there was an incident when she was a teenager where she set this boy on fire, like accidentally, and the boy was her boyfriend, so it was really bad. And then the witches council wanted to banish, they wanted to bind and constrict her power. And because of the fact that she hurt the person that she loved, and then she got into an argument with her cousin and she like burnt the shirt off of him. So basically she went to her grandmother, their New Orleans Creole, but French Creole. And so basically she went to her grandmother Nanette and she was like, bind the power. And because her grandmother is what's called a Verde witch, which is like, she wanted the OGs, she was able to bind and constrict her power. And so basically she 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 went on about her business, and in life she just never, you know, she didn't have to worry about that. Actually, I'm sorry, it's her aunt who bound her. I crossed up series for a second. That's actually that whole little thingy that I just told you. I'm sorry, that's wrong. that's, that's actually part of the Pack Coalition. That's that's Samantha's that's her whole backstory. I'm sorry. No. Lachey, her aunt basically bound her power, and then she went to New York and she basically she went into Google and all that kind of stuff, and she didn't like it, so she decided to just roam and be her. And so she goes on these little skirts where she goes from here to there, and that's how she got at the bar. And then she met Graham and she didn't think that he liked her, and then she found out that he did, and then they tried to hook up together, and then he found out that, and then she found out that he was half dragon. And for some reason something in him connected with her after all this time, because she did have the incidents as well. It was her best friend that she burned, and so something in him and her connected. She couldn't figure out what it was, and he was like, we need to speak to your parents. And so obviously there's something in your background that your parents are hiding. And then she finds out that her dad is an onyx dragon, which is an African sister clan of uh not sister in like, like, related, but like, I guess in the species world you would be related, but not like in the real world, because they're both dragons. They're just different spheres of the dragon. She is a black onyx dragon, so like when she changes, you'll get to see, it's like amazing. And then he's red, he's ruby. And so basically, but he's also half fae, which is the problem and the reason why he had to leave his Fae clan, because he is Dragon King. So check that series out. And that's pretty much it. This video is almost an hour. Oh my god, that's crazy. But I wanted you guys to get like the full on effect of what I write. And then lastly, my 12th series is as an NA. It's a new adult, and it's basically she turns 18, Tobella, and her parents force her to move from Boston to California, and she has no friends. And the problem is that for 18 years her father is the Fae King. But because of a prophecy, her mom is a Catalonian and African witch. She's like a priestess, and for 18 years they hid that from her. They never told her any of this stuff. They put her in this magic school, and she doesn't understand why, because she has no magic, and so it pisses her off. She has to leave all her friends. She goes out to California, and then she's had like the worst time in this school for the last, because she's a senior, which was like to her even worse. You moved me in my senior year. And so her parents put her in this school, and she can't understand why they placed her in this school when she has no magic. Well, she actually does, because she's the daughter of the king. Um, but they never told her this. And the reason that they never told her this is because the prophecy that concerns her turning 18. And now the parents have to fess up and tell everything that's happened. And so that's the last series, the 12th series, the and it's called The Chronicles of Takuri, and I don't have the cover on here, and it's called Chosen by Two. And so the prophecy contains two boys, and she can only choose one. But and the problem is that when she turns, she has to marry both boys, and when she turns 21, the boys have to fight to the death, and whoever is the victor is the one she has to marry. And so that's pretty much it to this paranormal. I know I've taken like forever, but I wanted you guys to get like a gist of what it is that I actually write. And I know that was only, I don't know how many series I actually talked about, because I can't talk about all of them because then this video would be his hella long. But those are the main ones. That's the gist of what I write. And so Teacher Between Midnight and Dawn has 15 books. A Light Fairy Tale has 7. Bayou Blues has 3. The Salida Witches has 4. Um the Death Merchants has 7. The um Death Merchants has 7. Married to a Vampire has 2. Married to a Werewolf has 2. Um, Pack Coalition has 3. Burgeoning Witches has 1. Book 2 is slated to come out at the January. And then the Heartscore Dragon has 1. That book comes out in January as well. And then the Chronicles of Takiri has 1. That book. So basically my January, February, and March is going to be crazy because that's when I'm doing all the new releases for the paranormal. So that's pretty much it. Sorry this video was so long, and I hope you guys actually watch it to see what it is that I write in paranormal. And that's pretty much it. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys stay with this channel. And don't forget to like, subscribe, click that little bell down there so it will ring every time I upload a new video and you get the gist on what I will be doing. And then the next video, I will talk about the new releases that are going to come out for January, March, and February, or January, February, March, I should say. That will be my next paranormal video. But I'll also be uploading the one about I did the shorts already, but I will be uploading the one about what I'm thankful for November, and then there will also be a Christmas series. So in between those, I will upload what's going to be happening with my new releases for the new year. That's pretty much it. Thank you guys. Bunches. See ya. Bye.